everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Ultimate Effort Show with Alex.
And Joe.
And as usual, if you're highly perceptive, we have a very special guest in studio. Not that we, not that Joe and I have a studio, but we have a very special guest, Jeremy Lilley, with us. Jeremy is no stranger, I think, to the AbTab community, Absolute Tabletop. Very well known over there. He might be a little bit more unknown to some of the Runehammer folks, but hey, that is the whole purpose of doing this sort of meet and greet on our show, so that everyone gets a chance to meet cool people in the hobby who are doing really awesome stuff. And as you guys are going to find out, Jeremy is doing some really cool stuff, and we cannot wait to talk about it. But as you know, we have a tradition on the show.
Yes, we do. Big tradition. It's pulled directly out of comic books, superhero movies everywhere. You have to have the origin story. So, Jeremy, always great to see you again, man. But
good to see you.
Load us up with that origin story. What was the, gamma ray burst that hit you? Like, what happened? Tell us all.
Well, I was in the lab late one night, trying to finish this research that I had been slaving over for longer than I can admit. And
as one does.
Just one fatal mistake. That's all it takes. You leave one series of locks unchecked, and the next thing you know, you're able to leap the height of skyscrapers, whatever. No, I mean, what do you want to know? Like, origin of like,
your origin
my
story.
Mom and Dad once loved each other, and then I was born, and
for me it was like the earth cooled and then the dinosaurs came, and
man, I'm feeling that lately. I'm very much feeling that.
But no, really, truly, we're just curious. How did you get into the hobby? Where did you get started? What are your roots? How did you come up? And get addicted like the rest of us.
So gaming origin story. All right.
As always, Alex says it better.
Oh no, I'm with it now. So I first discovered gaming in the Boy Scouts whenever I was probably around the age of 13 or 14. I saw some of the older kids in the troop playing, and I didn't understand exactly what was going on. And I was intrigued by it because they were all sitting around a table in an Air Force base where we were kind of staying overnight on route to summer camp in another state. And it was the West End D6 Star Wars. And I was a huge Star Wars nerd already. So I was really intrigued by the fact that I was seeing familiar characters depicted. I was seeing Wookiees, and I was seeing, people who were obviously smugglers, but they weren't the characters from the movies. I was like, what the heck is this? Like, I don't understand. Like, how can you tell a story with already existing elements, but somehow it's your own story? So anyways, I kind of sat and watched and listened without really understanding what was going on. Later, I started playing with a few people who were playing that same game, West End D6 Star Wars. But bless their hearts, I love those friends very much, but they did not explain anything to me. Anytime that we had to roll something, they just said, don't worry about it, just roll these dice. We'll tell you what happens. So it was not the best learning experience, but I fell in love with what I was doing. And then later, I started learning first edition Dungeons and Dragons with my Scoutmaster. He started teaching us to play, but we only got to play twice a year, and only for like 3 hours or so. And it was very hyper focused on old school D&D. It was bust in the door, kill all of the goblins, cut their ears off because you can get copper pieces for them, take them back, trade them in, get your stuff better, and then go back and do the same again. Our characters had zero personality. I think we had at least 2 Merlins in the group, that kind of thing. It was absurd. But then later, whenever I got
fun.
It was fun in its own right. But I loved the game, and I loved what I was learning in the game, and I was learning the rules, but it didn't snag me then. But later on, whenever I was in college and I was going through the theater department, we formed a group of all theater people, either tech or acting side or what have you. And we played second edition. And in that campaign, in that group, the dungeon master literally would look at his books before we started, and then he would not touch them for the entire session. And if he couldn't remember what a rule was, he would just make it up on the spot and say, it doesn't really matter. And he focused really hard on characters and story. And then I was blown away. I was like, holy crap, now I understand what this is really capable of. And from that point on, I was hook, line, and sinker, sold.
Yes.
Oh, that's epic. That's really epic.
That's like a 3-part origin story.
Nope,
so
that's
there you go.
3 acts to every story.
That's a short one compared to some folks, honestly.
I was gonna say Marvel can milk that for a little while.
Yeah, right. Like at least a 3-part trilogy. You really touched a nerve for Joe and me because we love West End games, Star Wars.
Yeah, I still have all my original second edition books on the shelf back here.
I have a copy of the player's handbook right behind me.
Yep. Yeah, it's such a great system.
Good stuff.
So I'm curious. You did a really nice job talking about how you kind of found your way to D&D, and maybe that experience sort of really unlocked, I think, when you got to college. But I'm curious. Did you ever play any other systems, or where did it go from college? Because obviously you've been playing a little bit since then, I think.
just a week. So other than the West End Games Star Wars game, first edition and then second edition D&D were definitely the ones that I had played the most. There was an evening where we tried to play Vampire the Masquerade, but by the time that we had finished generating characters, I think I was the only sober person left in the room. And so that game never happened. So I kind of stumbled through finishing the character, and that's as far as it got, unfortunately.
Okay.
And then I played a few games on play-by-post forums and things like that.
Oh, nice.
But then whenever I started designing a lot of my own game systems, things that I thought that D&D didn't do well or that I thought would be better, a system for running like zombie apocalypse games and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then really kind of once I started connecting with the groups online, playing virtually, that really opened my eyes for a lot of the different systems that are out there and trying a lot of new ones. Because trying a new system with a campaign is difficult to do because that's such a long commitment. And if the system doesn't quite jive for some reason, then it just becomes hard to want to continue. So for like one shots, they're great because you can test it out. You can see what you like about it, what you don't. You can make
look
changes
under the hood, kick the tires.
Yeah, exactly. Which is definitely my nature. I like to tinker with systems to make them work better for what I'm looking for.
Awesome.
So at this point, I have tried a bunch of different systems, but early on, definitely not very many.
Gotcha.
Awesome. How soon after that did you kind of jump in and decide I'm gonna GM? Like when did that come about? When did you kind of take that leap? Because it's kind of inevitable at some point for everybody.
Right. Absolutely. So with that group in college that we were playing with, and it was so great, so fantastic. When I look back on it, it's like such a pivotal like moment in my life. But I think the campaign literally only lasted like 6 months. I don't think it was very, very long. But we played every weekday on our dinner breaks between the end of the last class for the day and the beginning of rehearsals. So we played for like 2 hours, but we played for 5 days a week.
Wow.
So when I look back on that moment in my life, it's very condensed. But afterwards, we ended up moving out at that point from my parents' house for the first time, and my now wife moved out from her parents' house, and we rented a house across the street from the guy who ran that game. And I was thinking, we're going to get to play all the time, all the time. We have no parents to tell us when we have to go to bed. Like, we're going to get to play all the time. We played 0 times, 0 times the entire time we lived in that damn house.
Oh, man.
Man.
So we, whenever we moved out to an apartment after that, whenever that rent house did not work out, we had roommates initially. And after, I think, a 6-month lease, they moved. Thank goodness. They were a difficult couple to live with. Never again. Never again. No roommates ever again. They moved out, and almost immediately after that, I was probably 20, 21, give or take, when I started my home group. And we met on a weekly basis and still have been for the last 21 years, 22 years now.
Nice.
Wow.
Obviously, COVID and, all of that kind of stuff, and, holidays. And
I have seen a lot of the photos you've posted of some of those table setups for those games for your home group. And man, it's fucking impressive. It's impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Joe just got duck quacked.
I told you I'm going to try, but I can't make any promises.
Joe adds so much extra editing work to all of these videos.
I'm so sorry.
I'm teasing. Go ahead.
I am trying. My bad.
Yeah, no, it's been very much a positive influence in my life to have that group of friends.
That's awesome.
For all this time. And people have come and gone. There's not as many of the original group as I would like, but people's spouses have joined. We've had siblings of people who were a part of the original group come in and join, and so it's been amalgamous, but or amorphous. Whatever the word is. You can add a duck quack there if you need to.
No.
But no, it's been really awesome to have that tight knit of a group of friends for that long in my life.
As you say, Jeremy, is that the secret to having a long running game like that? Do you think? For keeping it together for that long. The nature of the people, would that be your take, or is there some other secret sauce that Joe and I are missing here, maybe? Because I tend to think that that's a little bit unusual, maybe.
I have come to understand that that's definitely the case. That it does not seem to be typical for a group to be able to stay together that long,
right?
And I don't know, to tell you the truth, what secret sauce would be.
Maybe you're just an awesome DM. You just held it together,
I don't know about that.
I can attest to that. I've been in several of your games.
I appreciate that, Joe. But no, I think table chemistry is a huge part of the success of a game. Because and again, it's not just about the party roles that the PCs are filling. There's also roles being filled at the table. The leader, the idea maker, the problem solver, the referee. Whenever there's
not like bad problem, but like the jokester.
Sure, the comedic relief, and all of those things are important. And typically, in my experience, those roles will be fulfilled by someone.
Interesting.
And it doesn't matter what group of people you get together, someone will fall into one of these roles eventually. And understanding how that dynamic works, and just like in a party of characters, understanding where your strengths and weaknesses lie and relying on everybody and stuff like that is important. But also just as an adult in life, I've kind of just come to understand that you cannot go wrong if you're having open communication, and your premise is built out of love and respect. You're the basis for your relationship. And if the focus is those elements, and really you're just kind of wanting to have fun together, and you're all amicable people, then you want to spend time with everybody.
Yeah. Right. Oh, absolutely. Well, it's so funny that your number one is sort of communication, because I see this all the time, on Facebook or even in our own Discord, people be like, our group has all these problems, it's falling apart. And I'm like, well, have you tried having a conversation you know, and the response is like, no, I haven't tried having a conversation. Like, why would I do that?
Right.
You know, and I'm like, well, how are you
Right, it's
gonna
true.
like get along if you can't like talk to people? Like,
Right.
holy
Especially
smokes.
when our hobby's like 90% communication to begin with.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
I think what we've all
I'm of
learned
the
here
firm
is
belief
that that the real adventure is the friendships we've made along the way.
It's true. Somebody should brand that.
Yeah, right. Somebody really should like put that on a t-shirt. Joe, add that to your list.
Right? Making a note.
But no, I'm adamant. Like every relationship, if it's going to be a healthy relationship, it starts with communication.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the only way that a relationship can be healthy. A marriage, a work relationship, a gaming relationship, a friendship, anything. It doesn't matter. If you don't have open and honest communication with one another, it's going to break down eventually. And how badly it breaks down usually is tied directly to how bad the communication is.
Yeah, man, you're all over it. You're all over it. I also gotta, just thank you. The check's in the mail because you've just given me, like the perfect teaser for this video. Like, we have the secret to long-running campaigns.
The secret sauce.
You heard it here first.
Games.
Jeremy Lilley reveals. Thank you.
Any
so
complaint emails you need to send to these two.
That's great. Well, so I do want to circle back there to this gaming piece.
Sure. Yeah.
So, have you always just sort of been like a D&D guy? Like, did you find your way to 5e, or did you like make your way through 3rd edition and then to 4th edition, tinker around with that some, and then move to 5e? And then is that kind of where you've kind of made your home? Is that your primary system today, or where are you at in terms of that journey?
Yeah, more or less. I played 1st edition. I played 2nd edition. When 3rd edition came out, we ended up kind of dipping our toes in that and fell in love with the way that it was designed. And that's definitely where we threw most of our weight as a home group. We picked it up. We decided we were making the switch. We brought in, at the time that we had brought in some new players. It was a nice kind of transition point. And so we kind of stuck with what we called 3.25, because there was some about 3.5 that we kind of adopted and other stuff that we kind of didn't, since we all had 3rd edition books and not 3.5 books. And we played that for a long time. Like we skipped 4th edition. A lot of that was, I had another friend who had gotten into it. So I had the chance to kind of look through some of his books. And it just wasn't for me. The way that they kind of approached a lot of the changes and things like that, I just wasn't thrilled with. I didn't understand a lot of the reasoning behind changing it so dramatically. And I didn't want to have to teach an entire table full of people to play an entirely different system. So we just didn't really mess with it at all. But then whenever D&D Next was announced, and I kind of shrugged at first. I was like, nah, whatever. Like, it's a new edition. I have my edition. Like, no big deal. But the thing that sold me on it was the fact that they were taking direct feedback from the community and making changes based on that. And I said, that's brilliant. That's excellent design choice. And that they were looking to implement the successful parts of as much of the earlier editions of the game as possible. I said, okay, now I'll pay attention to what's going on. And I started playing with it. Another friend of mine kind of had gotten into it and picked up the books and stuff. So I started playing with him. And I fell in love with it because it dealt with a lot of the things that I felt were still kind of wonky or problematic with 3rd edition. But it implemented a lot of really good changes. And I definitely kind of went headfirst in. And 5th edition is definitely the primary language that I speak. Everything that I contemplate gaming wise goes through that filter first.
Gotcha.
Right. That's awesome.
Now, are you sort of a 5e purist in the sense that, you're kind of down the line, or in terms of, like you mentioned, being sort of a tinkerer before, like, do you kind of like make some rulings on the fly, or do you kind of change some stuff up to suit your table? I'm curious where you fall on that spectrum.
Yeah. Am I a purist? Hell no. Absolutely not. Nothing is sacred enough to not fuck with.
Yes.
To not mess with. What? If I get good enough, maybe I'll just say that instead. No, but no, I come up with little mini games to run. Like there's no good chase rules for D&D, so I made my own. There was a particular sport that I wanted to have happen in one of my campaigns that was going to be kind of a deciding factor on where the campaign went next. So I came up with the rules for how to play that sport using 5e as kind of a skeletal structure, so that it wasn't wholly different from that, but that there were different rules for how it was going to work. And I gave my players the rules ahead of time, said this is the way this is going to be, and then I let them play characters that were not their player characters, but were actually the athletes playing the sport.
Nice.
And they naturally divided into the two teams, and so they were fighting against one another for what could change the outcome of the campaign, which was really fun. So yeah, I definitely will make up rules on the fly, get things wrong all the time, and it doesn't matter to me. But there's a golden rule, and it's always I am the player's biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
Always.
Yes, on the nose.
Yep. Us too. I mean, I don't know any other way to be. Like I'm the put them on the stage, shine the spotlight on them, let them go, and watch them, interact with the world, and then root for them the whole way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's not to say
I'm gonna twist them.
I'm gonna
put the knife to them. I'm gonna put them right to the brink of failure. And failure may come. But what I want is to put them in the fire so that they can then pull it back out of the fire and get that sense of like dramatic success.
That's it. Yeah, that's
right.
Exactly
Player's
what I
biggest
believe in.
fan, but here's some thumb screws.
Well, you know as well as
absolutely.
You know as well as I do, being a drama guy. Like, for drama to be good, like main characters, protagonists have to struggle. Like they have to go through some stuff, and without that struggle, right, without like getting to the brink, as you put it, peril, emotional turmoil, like the whole gamut. That somehow then they emerge victorious and everybody cheers and tells a story for all time. Like that to me is like the best type of session. I don't know. Do you agree?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, and again, like it's that's just drama. That's storytelling. If the status quo is here and the eventual triumph is going to measure here, then you can have that and it'll feel great. But if you damage the status quo first, now this victory carries so much more weight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way of putting it, in terms of that analogy, kind of lowering that status quo piece. I love that. Love it. I love it. Well, I mean, versus, right, somebody who just goes out into the world and everything kind of goes their way, and they don't have any real highs or lows. Like, we really just don't care about those characters.
True. Mary
Right.
Sue.
Yep.
I mean,
I want to see Mary Sue, kind of, I guess, Dorothy style. Like all of a sudden, she slips off the fence and falls in the pig pen. Oh my gosh, it's starting to get nervous. Oh, here comes a tornado. Now we've got to handle all this. And she thumps her head and then wakes up in Oz, Yellow Brick Road. Like that's the Mary Sue I like. That's the one I want to get. Start as a Mary Sue, but then here's some action.
So
we're gonna have fun with that.
This dovetails nicely into our next question for you. Is how would you define your DM style?
Cinematic and story centric, I guess. Character driven, I like to say. I like to build the story around characters. So when I run a campaign, at least, I give a lot of homework to my players up front. I ask for at least 2 NPC connections that they have, at least 1 PC connection that they have, a secret that either their character knows about or doesn't. It could be somebody that's after them and they don't know it, that kind of thing. And then I actually draft up an individualized 10 questionnaire that are all pointed questions, like from the Dread RPG. I don't know if you if y'all are familiar with that book. But all through the bottom, on the bottom of every single page, there's these very pointed questions, and they're fantastic.
I'm very familiar, by the way. I just played Dread 2 weekends ago.
Perfect.
So I had never played Dread before. That was our last game on Sunday before we left. We were all contestants on Survivor Island, so think like Survivor. Only
Sure.
you get there and you're not alone on the island, and bad stuff starts happening.
Right on.
And it was fantastic.
It's such a good game.
Yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah.
And what you're referring to, that character sheet or that questionnaire.
Yeah, so I was going to go back. That's a good line of questions for a campaign build.
So I love that you're doing that. That's super killer. I was actually sort of thinking about that sheet and kind of ways to maybe incorporate it. So I love hearing that you're using that method. But go ahead. I interrupted you.
Like, no.
Everything you're saying is killer.
That was a worthy interruption. Dread is it's one of those games where the design and what it's trying to accomplish are a perfect marriage between each other. The system and the mechanics and the way that it functions as a game are so perfectly designed. The way that it delivers tension is bar none the best.
Well, that's it. I mean, when you're feeling tension in the game, and then you yourself are physically feeling tension as you're removing Jenga blocks, like it's like
instant immersion,
tension on top of tension.
Yep.
Right. Well, emotional and physical tension.
Yeah. You're looking for it's almost like trying to look at one of those what the hell do they call them? The invisible eye or whatever.
Paintings or whatever.
Yeah, where you had to like kind of get your eyes to focus in an unnatural way. But like when it happens, it pops. And that's kind of the same thing. Is like when your character's emotion and your emotion happen to just line up the right way, your immersion in what's going on is instantly magnified. Because you have that synergy with your character, and all of a sudden you are in that moment. And that's what we're all chasing. That's the dragon that we're all chasing, you know? But yeah, to go back to what I was saying. So when I put all that homework on the players, that gives me material to draw from for the entire rest of the campaign. Yeah. If I'm looking for an antagonist in a particular point, I can go through all of those player documents, all of those questionnaires, all of the NPC connections, the secrets, and I can pick from them and put it in a bowl and throw in what I want to be a part of it and mix it up and make something that's usable out of it that accomplishes all of those things. It hits on the things that I wanted to include, and it immediately draws a player in. They may have a bad reaction, they may have a good reaction, but if they gave it to me, they're going to have a strong reaction, and that's what I want.
Yeah, that touches right back to that immersion, because like they see it come up and it's something that like they instantly know immediately, like, oh my gosh, this is mine. Oh my gosh.
Yep. Well, and there's no better feeling as a DM, right? When you drop
guys, stay away from his right hand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like there's no better feeling as DM when you drop one of those tasty nuggets on somebody, and you know, it's just like, and then their minds are blown, you know, and
that expression of dawning realization is a high, without a doubt.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm a junkie for that.
Very eloquently said.
Like that literally just happened during JEF Con. I did not go. I ran a one shot, but I had one of those moments in this game we were running. It was a guy, it was his first time playing ICRPG. It's what I was running. And when he realized, like, I could see the moment because I'm watching the camera, when he realized, you know, oh, this is a predator, you know, trademark, don't sue me, Fox or Paramount or whoever made it. But anyway, like when he realized it, like I could see it wash over his face and his eyes kind of went, you're like, oh, I know, I could see the moment. I know what's going on. And I was like, yes. And then I shot him with the shoulder cannon first before anybody else. He knew it. I knew he was excited. I was like, he is going to absolutely love this. And he did. Will, that was awesome. Thanks.
It is. It's the best feeling.
Yeah.
And when it happens that you can pull that thread and it affects more than one player at once is even better. Like if you happen to be able to align multiple people's fragments or elements kind of into one beat. And then you pull that, light that fuse, and you can see both people go, oh, and it's even better whenever they have adverse reactions to it. When one of them has a positive reaction and the other has a negative reaction, because then that leads to beautiful inter-party tension. And you can't buy that kind of stuff.
Right. One, yes. And two other folks on the table. Oh my God. What?
Yeah, that's great.
Exactly. The one person's like, well, we have to go there immediately. And the next person's like, no way, I am not stepping foot anywhere near that place. Are you kidding me? And then all of a sudden, all the stuff starts coming up. My father did this thing a long time ago, and it can, and then you just get, that's role play.
Right.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, so I want to transition now, Jeremy, because I think we've talked a little bit about, now people I think have a good sense of your gaming history and kind of who you are as a DM, which is awesome.
Love of DIY.
But you're also a successful entrepreneur here in the gaming hobby. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of your products and let Joe kind of run through that. And I think you've started sort of a cool little YouTube channel as well. So I want to hear all about those things.
Okay. Well, just make sure to put quotes around successful before you go too far out on this limb. But I'm with it. Let's do it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah, I guess starting on products. I'm over here. I've got it kind of pulled up over here. The Erasmas Expeditions. Also name of the channel and kind of the whole package, I guess we could say. The tasty enchilada. But here we have this publishing, which I understand is kind of more recent. I want to say, wasn't it just earlier this year that you kind of took that plunge to start putting some of this out, for us general public to make purchase of?
Yeah, it was actually. And it was kind of a multifold kind of decision. For a long time, I had kind of wanted to sell copies of the Expedition engine is the system that I kind of sell mainly on Drive-Thru RPG. There's a couple of other things on there. They're mostly, there's mostly like some other like 5e like DM tools and stuff like that on there.
Yeah, I was going to say, but before you just brush them off, because like I'm going to not be modest about you for you, because I know you will be infinitely modest because you are, sir.
I appreciate that.
You've got some awesome, for anybody playing 5th edition, and these actually work for a lot of other games that are D&D based or anywhere near that thing with similar stats and stuff. We all know the classic 6, but these are some wonderful GM tools that, I mean, they could be infinitely useful. I mean, if you're not a guy that's just scribbling in your notebook, scratching out the hit points, writing the new one, like you've got everything from stat block sheets for NPCs or groups of monsters. You've got critical hit charts, which there are some tasty gems that can really change up combat. Some of those are brutal, dude.
Yeah.
I kind of had to hold my mouth when I was like, tongue? Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's also a great combat tracker, which is, just great things that can just help streamline anybody's note keeping or bookkeeping side of things. As a GM, so those are some cool things. I'm sorry, I was cutting you off. I knew you were going to be modest. I really wanted to drive home the utility here.
Yeah, a lot of those are just things that through my 22 years of running games that I've kind of just realized that I needed, that I found useful to have, that I couldn't find easily anywhere else. And then I've developed and then iterated through the different versions of the game that I've played. And the things that, especially as my GMing style has changed over especially the last 5 to 10 years, that I am still using, even though my style has changed. So I definitely thought that those could potentially be useful to other people. And because they don't, have any kind of copyright or anything like that attached to them or anything, is like, hey, that's an easy thing to decide to do. Right. But as for the Expedition engine,
Yes, that's where I
It
was
is its
going next.
own, yeah, it's its own game system, but it was based on Lasers and Feelings, which is another system. It's a free-to-play RPG, and I didn't want to sell them because it just didn't feel quite right. Like, it's a very modified version, so it's probably different enough to not cause any problems, but it just still was kind of one of those things where I was like, I don't know, that feels kind of bad.
Well, I mean, you are, you know, in the sales of them, it's like you're putting the price tag on the labor that you've done, because you did do quite a bit of writing. You know, there's a lot of differences in between. You know, yeah, there's similarities. Like you can, the Lasers and Feelings framework is there, but you've done a lot of great work and packed a ton, design wise, graphics wise, onto this one page rule sets. Like, so again, don't sell yourself short, brother.
Well, I appreciate that. And some of the ones that I have designed were also based off of licensed IPs that I don't have any kind of connection with, so I can't sell those.
Right.
But I had a few that were not designed with IPs in mind, and so when I kind of came to that realization, and then I also learned through the grapevine that the creator of Lasers and Feelings basically said, "Go nuts, sell your hacks of the system. We're not persecuting, we're not chasing anybody down. Like, you're free and clear to do that." I was like, okay, now maybe I need to put some serious thought into developing a storefront and getting this business up and running. And then in January, I decided to walk away from my office career of 18 years. And that really kind of lit a fire under my quack. So then, I got the drive-through store up and running, and started looking into other ways of trying to earn income by doing this thing that I'm already spending a ton of time doing.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good rule of thumb.
I mean, unless we're like with homies, like, yeah, we play with
sure.
homies all the time. But yeah,
sometimes do it for free.
Yeah, sometimes do it for free.
Well, I guess I would say, maybe for people who aren't as familiar with Lasers and Feelings, right? What can they expect if they go to check out the Expedition engine?
Okay, so the original Lasers and Feelings was a way to play Star Trek with the numbers kind of filed off. And it's a one-page RPG system. It's beautifully designed. The core mechanic of it is really brilliant. And it's basically every time you go to make a roll, you roll the die, and you're either trying to get below a target number or above a target number, depending on whether it's lasers or feelings. Yeah. Depending on which it would fall under. So that was a brilliant piece of design. And then if you roll your number, then you get some kind of a boon, a mechanical ash, a chip
crit
you can
almost
throw in later. Yeah, like a Benny from Fate, or like a initiative. No, I just completely blanked on the term for D&D.
Inspiration.
Yep, inspiration.
Inspiration. Thank you. So yeah, and so I took that concept and I expanded it more, because the problem I found with Lasers and Feelings and all of the kind of hacks that came about was that it was hard to justify every single action as either this or that. Yeah. It was very binary for my tastes. And so I expanded it out into like things that I felt were diametrically opposed, but kind of could exist on a sliding scale, and then just created 5 of those. Nice. So it's like speed versus control. Like the more fast that you're trying to do things, the less control you're going to have, and vice versa. Yep. Awesome. Grace and force are 2 other, nodes.
One of the things I
so
have
the concept
to say
was basically that.
Sorry.
No, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the things I thought was cool, because I have played some of those with you, and I still occasionally think about that He-Man game because it was freaking great. I said freaking. It's not a quack. The He-Man game was great. But one of the things I loved in the character creation, you get to pick your number. You get to choose what your stat is, like on the, so you can look and go like, am I fast? Which is you want to. I I think, yeah, you want to roll under if you pick that side and over on the other. So you get to decide, like, if I'm going to be fast, I can scale it so I'm better at fast. Like, it was just a brilliant system with like that slide scale. Like, it made making a character fun. And there's some of them you kind of have to stop and think about like, well, wait a minute now.
It's funny too, because a lot of times they're, like 4 or 5 options really, because some of them are based on a D6, so you only have 2, 3, 4, or 5 to choose from, so it's only 1 point, but you can sometimes find yourself really debating about where you want to put it.
That's awesome. Dude, that's
the
killer.
He-Man game, I still want a toy of Paul's character.
Well,
that was so great.
We will
what is his name?
I don't remember the name. It was like Stretcho, or it was something, I think, that was like a
Twist Arms or something like that.
Twist Arms, or Twisty Arms. I think that might have been it. It was great.
Perfect toy.
Like Stretch Armstrong?
Kind of.
Almost like plant-based, somewhere between like Stretch Armstrong and Swamp Thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
But in the He-Man universe.
Yep.
Right.
It was awesome.
So I can picture the toy, the He-Man torso that's not changed at all.
Yeah,
and it has that stupid
the green
rubber from the 80
arms.
toys where it can actually stretch, and it attracts pet hair like nobody's business for some reason.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
well, that is awesome. I mean, that is killer. We will definitely put a link down in the description. Like, folks, please go check out the Expedition engine. That could be just what you're looking for.
Yeah.
For your next game, or for your next fun night, or for your next one shot. So please show Jeremy some love and check it out for sure.
So far, you got 3 of these bad boys to choose from. We got our Monster Jungle, which is all of like your classic monster movies. You've got your Godzilla, your Kong, the Rampage movie. Don't laugh, it was fun. I enjoyed it. It had The Rock. What's up? I mean, you could do your Jurassic Parks, all that stuff with that. We've got Dead End, which is like, you want to play Zombie Apocalypse? We've got your Zombie Apocalypse. Like, this one's a great one. And for those looking for sailing the high seas, sorry, there are 7 of those. For people looking for like that piracy or that high seas action, you've got your Black Hearts on the Blue Seas. So we've got some great choices so far up here.
Oh my god,
and I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you.
Those are all the genres I want to play in for sure.
Yeah, I wish so badly that I could sell the ones that are connected to the existing IPs, because some of those are so much fun to play one shots in, stuff like the Matrix or He-Man. Or
I think wasn't there like they're so was fun. It a Death Race or there was one with, or maybe it was an Escape from LA style. I cannot remember which one it was.
I have another one, called Acid Rain. That is very much kind of it's a mashup between Escape from New York, Running Man, Hunger Games, No Escape. It's basically there is a prison island that has been shut off from the mainland, and everybody who's committed a crime is thrown over the wall onto this island to fend for themselves. There's no wardens, no guards, no rules, and the whole thing is televised on pay-per-view. So it's like the mainland entertainment. I haven't released that one for sale yet, because when I created the original image, or the original mock-up of it, I used artwork that I'd found on the internet, and I don't want to sell anything that has that on it, so I have to redo that one before I can sell it. But it's coming.
I was wondering if you're going to invoke Ray Liotta, so I'm glad to hear that No Escape made the list.
No Escape.
So
I'm not going to say it's a good movie. No? It's a fun movie.
Yeah, right.
It's a fun movie.
It's a classic of my youth, and I will fight anyone who says it is bad. So.
Yes. Leave robot jocks alone. Also.
Well, that is awesome.
Oh man,
Joe, were you
having to laugh.
Were you done with the product list, Joe?
Oh yeah, I was just going over this. Well, I guess kind of, sorta. Yeah. There's one other big product.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You wanna, or should I?
Nudge, nudge.
Yeah, please.
Poke, poke.
By all means.
Yeah. We've got the Professional Game Master, which I must say is kind of a big product. With bespoke games, as was mentioned in this just absolutely like gnarly glowing review that
I happened
to find that was on Facebook.
Well,
like, damn.
I got
that review was amazing. It made me feel so good, up into the point that I crashed and burned with the flu.
Right.
It kept me sane until my brain just couldn't think about anything but snot.
Yeah, for folks that are that aren't in on the joke, like Jeremy's recovering from the flu, and so he was gracious enough to do this interview. We kind of twisted his arm to make it happen, and he was gracious.
Not at all.
Gracious enough to join
Y'all
us.
were saints about.
We got him to agree when his fever was 104,
Yeah, right.
and he was a little incoherent.
Took advantage of him in his weakened state because Joe and I have no shame. So I'm really curious, Jeremy, like how you made the transition to professional game mastering, how you got all that started. And really, because I think what a lot of people want to know about is what your experience has been like, and how has it played out for you?
Fairly limited at the moment, and I don't know that I would even call it a transition necessarily, just because I still run many of my games not through the professional lens. For people that I've been running games for, ongoing campaigns and things like that are not paid.
Sure.
I don't really know where it was that I came across it, but I had seen people talking about it within the community, and the ethical debate that always comes up that surrounds it about should you or should you not, and
that pigpen swirl about it, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, it kind of comes with a dark cloud hanging over it.
Yeah.
And I came across the website that I use called Start Playing, and it was an ad for it. And I had seen a few places like that before, but something about this one in particular kind of caught my attention. I was like, okay. And then again, I left my job in January, so I'm starting to look for any means of bringing in income that I can. I was like, you know what? I think it's time that I look into this and give it some serious thought. I don't know that it's what I want to do for all of my games. As a full transition. But if people, I'm at the point now where I have enough people that contact me asking if I can or would be willing to play or run a game with them, that I felt maybe I can do this as a service, as maybe I can actually offer this and people might be willing to pay. So far I have run 6 sessions. 5 of them have been from a trilogy that we were supposed to be running. So we'll be running the 6th session of that at some point soon. Yes, exactly.
I'm trying to divide 5 into 3, and I'm my poor country boy brain is having a hard time.
Yep. People aren't good at math.
Now you have met my conundrum. No, I initially started advertising to just do one-shots because I have ongoing campaigns and that takes a lot of time. And I had kind of advertised for a while. I filled out their form, I did all the information. I kind of sat and waited, and I was like, okay, cool. Any minute now. Okay, any minute now. And tumbleweeds, like it was desolate, and I very much was like, well, maybe this wasn't a great idea. And then I started saying, I have to go back to the same old drawing board. Self-promotion, that's the only thing that's going to work. Is you have to hit the pavement like that, and it sucks. I hate it. But it's a part of the thing. So I got contacted by somebody eventually, and he said, hey, I'm really interested in running a game, or having you run a game for me and a friend. We saw, your advertisement, and we're interested in hiring you. But we'd be interested in playing with other people. And so I contacted a couple of friends of mine who had expressed interest in playing and being willing to pay for it in the past. And I said, hey, this is the situation. These 2 guys are looking for a game. Would you be willing to pay to sit at this table and play with them? Games that I run, I like to have what I call anchors, people that I know at the table I can trust and I can lean into if I need to. Where if I need them to go on a plot hook, that I know I can hook somebody because I've played with them before. I know their style, that kind of stuff. So anyways, we got together, we started playing, and before we started playing, they said, well, one shot isn't really what we would like. Would it be okay if you ran 3? I said, yeah, that's perfectly fine with me. I can definitely do that. Especially, I mean, if it's paid for, like that's just, more, income for me. So absolutely.
Yep.
But after the first session, everybody was like, this doesn't have to be a one shot. Like we can, our trilogy, we can go longer than that. And I was like, well, it's pretty early on in the story. Let's figure out where we're going. But by the second session, it was very clear that I wasn't going to be able to wrap up the story in a trilogy. And I was like, it's probably going to go at least one more. And they're like, that's honestly, it's okay. Like really, honestly, let's just write it as long as we can. So then I was just like, it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about like limiting it now. Now I can just put as much into it as I want and tell the story that I kind of envisioned in the beginning with as much detail as I want. And then when it's done, I'll know it's done. And then just recently, I was hired by a couple from England. And that's the woman who wrote that lovely review.
Awesome.
I ran that game this past Friday, actually, just before getting sick. So I'm really happy that the plague staved off long enough for me to do that. But that was an incredible experience. So far, I've had a very positive experience. I've been very fortunate in that front.
That's
awesome. Great. That's really great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And folks, I got to tell you, like it's an extensive review. I don't know if I should read the whole thing here, but it is a big one, and I think I'm over on your site, over on start playing games, looking at your thing. I wish that oh nope, oh my gosh, the review is there. I was like, I'm gonna have to go back to the other thing.
Should be.
Yeah, it's right there at the bottom. Like, check this thing out. Like, man, it's awesome.
Well,
it's awesome.
I think anybody takes the time to write that long of a review,
yes.
and to give you that sort of heartfelt feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty strong indicator about the quality of the service or the quality of the experience.
Well,
exactly.
I mean, if nothing else, it made me understand that I did a good job for them.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Right.
Because running a fun game for your friends is one thing. I like the fact that I feel comfortable that I do that for my friends.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to do that on a level that someone else feels is valuable enough to consider professional.
Yeah, right.
To not only pay for it, but then to turn around and say, I want to leave you a thorough and positive review.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's an incredibly high form of flattery.
Yep, absolutely. Did you feel the extra pressure knowing that you were, that you were being paid, and in a sense maybe having to kind of earn this money by providing a certain experience for your clients?
I mean, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of that kind of in the mix. But for me, the majority of the anxiety that I felt going into a game like that, in particular that one, is running a game for somebody I've never met before.
Yep.
I'll bet.
That's always a dicey experience, especially people that you've met on the internet, because you don't know.
You don't know.
And there's so many different world views out there,
mm-hmm. And
personalities. Finding strangers that not only that you can get along with as players, but especially like in the case of like this couple, they both took one of my homebrew settings and read through the entire like Google document that I sent them, and they brought like the names of things that I had given in the document into their character designs, and like, I mean, it was an incredible amount of investment, especially for just a one shot. So it was a very, very good experience, and it made me very happy to hear that they felt the same way afterwards.
Right. No, that's great.
I'll just pull this. There's one paragraph here that I think really is like a kicker to it. And yes, I said paragraph. Like these people absolutely loved this service, this adventure that you got for them here. They put I guess they Reen is the name. We would not hesitate to recommend Jeremy for absolute beginners looking for a welcome, kind, uplifting introduction to the world of RPGs, as well as for experienced creatives seeking out a specific narrative experience. We felt privileged to be let loose to discover a part of one of his wondrous and immersive homebrew worlds for a while. Go on forever, GMs. Treat yourselves. And that does also kind of like touch into some of your homebrewed worlds. I know there's more than Dowrenland. That's just one I remember because I have.
Oh yeah.
I have fortunately had the chance to play in Dowrenland. But
yeah.
How many of those do you have? Like, where is there something like we can expect those to be coming to the Erasmus Expedition drive-through at some point?
Oh man, I don't know. Writing a setting book is such a massive undertaking. Like I have absolutely had the thought multiple times, and I have made the attempt multiple times. And I'm a writer. Like that's what I'm doing now, and that's what I've done for a long time. But every time I sit down to do it, the daunting task that sits before me casts such a deep shadow over me that I am crippled with writer's block. And I don't know how to solve it, honestly. But I'm working on it when I can, here and there. And I think part of the problem is I'm content running them myself as games. I would love to have them in the hands of other people. Anytime that somebody tells me that they want to run one of my own settings, it just makes my little heart just, flutter. It makes me so happy. And I want to know, like, tell me what it was like. Tell me what the experience was like. What did you find was lacking? What did you lean into? But yeah, I love world building. I'm very much kind of a storyteller by nature, and world building is, I don't know what it is about it that I love so much, but I just can't help it. Like I like making places. Like I love building the sandboxes that people get to play in. I adore that process. And I think now, with the inclusion of Sunderhearth, which is the one that I created with Steve Fillmore and a selection of other people. With that one aside, I think I now have 7 settings that I have made.
Wow. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, we're going to transition now, with that being said, because I think this is a good segue to a little bit of our lightning round here. So I'm not going to give you much time. I'll give you a little bit of time. Not much time.
You have discovered my kryptonite. You have my origin story, and now you have my kryptonite.
Perfect.
You can publish the issue.
Excellent. So I'm curious, Jeremy, what is your favorite game as a player? What's the one that stands out to you the most?
System or
nope, just
section?
Just game at the table as a player. What's the one where you walked away like, that's right in my top 5, that like this is the one?
Hardball.
Probably a player in a game of Dread. That was my introduction to Dread. Seeing what it was capable of was definitely up there.
Nice.
There's also a system called Cortex Prime that I ran a Firefly trilogy in. That was absolutely superb.
Shiny.
That's
an absolutely beautiful experience. So
that's really cool. What was your favorite game as a DM?
Definitely that one. The Firefly RPG.
Okay.
And again, like I have so many, like it's like killing my darlings, but
Gotcha. Okay. What's your best piece of advice for a DM?
Oh yeah.
The 2 ones that I always go to are communication and comfort. If you are communicating on a healthy level and you are comfortable, then you will excel as a dungeon master, as a game master.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What's your best piece of advice for a player at the table?
Pay attention. Listen. Don't just hear what the other people are saying, but like process it and use it to change what you're going to do or the way that you're going to do it later. If somebody else introduces an object in a room, use it on your turn, or find a way to build on what they've already said. Like that's a basic thing in acting, and it holds true to role-playing
Yep.
games as well.
Yeah, that's so true.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I have, this may not be such a lightning round question, but I am curious. What are your future endeavors? What can we expect out of Jeremy Lilley next year, 5 years from now?
Ooh.
I would love to have the answer to that question.
I love that honesty. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, I mean, it's who the hell can answer that question without that being their honest answer?
Well, sure.
I mean,
Nobody
who the hell knows where they're going to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
Like if you asked me, 5 years ago where I would be in 5 years, I certainly would not have answered anything that looks like where I currently am. And the further out you get, the worse that prediction is going to be. Where would I hope to be?
Yeah.
I mean, quack. In a lakeside, mountain region with a lot of trees, with my feet up next to a fire. I would love to successfully make it as a game developer, as a graphic designer, as a writer. The things that I'm trying to make work. As a dungeon master. I think that would be where I would love to see myself in the future. Being able to make enough money where I can support myself and my family comfortably, and not have to worry about shit. Worry about quack.
I love it. What can folks expect if they were to check out your YouTube channel?
We forgot to talk about the YouTube channel.
With all of that great advice that you have going on, what can people expect to see?
The YouTube channel is 7 years in at this point.
Man, that's a
little over 300 videos.
That's a long time, dude. That's an impressive catalog, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, thank you. It's a labor of love. It has not done as well as I had hoped. But again, it's fun. Like I've enjoyed every single game that I have put there.
There are so many great games on that.
Thank you. I can look back on most of them, if not all of them, and have really great memories to redraw upon. And not to get too sappy or sentimental, but I lost my father whenever he was 47. I am now 42. So I have a real looking down the barrel of a shotgun kind of sense of my own mortality.
Wow.
And I have a son who is now 14. So the constant thing in the back of my skull is that if nothing else ever comes from any of this, my son is going to have a massive volume of me being genuinely who I am as a man, not as his father, enjoying something. And he will have that for as long as YouTube is around. But as far as what is on the channel itself, it's all RPG related. There is a small sprinkling of crafting videos about like building terrain, painting, things like that, which is also a passion of mine, a part of the hobby that I really enjoy. Awesome. But it is mainly live plays of virtual sessions of games. Right. And then I host a podcast, video podcast, a little similar to this show here, where I have a single guest on, and called The Help Action, where I have a guest come on and we usually pick a specific topic. And then we discuss that topic at length, as well as kind of interview questions and kind of get to know them a little bit better. Nice. Super similar vibe, very chill, very non-formal. It's definitely the kind of conversation that I prefer to have around gaming. Yeah, only with much fewer quacks.
trying to keep this PG 13.
No, I admire it. I just can't adhere to it.
Right. Well, there are a lot of creatives who can. So
I do have to say that
it's a sign of intelligence and extended vocabulary.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm. And if you know when to place
quacking quack,
if you know when to place
quacking geniuses,
the right emphasis at the right moment, I think it's a sign of intelligence. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Just like I've told my son, there are no bad words. There are only words that are used in bad ways.
Well, all right. Well, man, golly, we've talked now, believe it or not, for over an hour. I hope we've done a great job showcasing all the awesome stuff that you have going on. But is there anything else that you would want people to know about you, or you would want to add, or a last impression maybe that you would want to leave for folks?
Man, that's a big question.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
we don't throw softball pitches. Like, I know that we seem pretty chill, but this is like,
no, that's right up my alley. I love that kind of stuff. I have a saying: kindness is a free action. Like, it doesn't cost you anything to be kind to someone. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to understand them, but being kind to them, there's no reason not to.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Jeremy, when Joe approached me and he was just like, "Hey, we're gonna get Jeremy Lilley on the show," and I'm like, "Yes!" And he's like, this is what he had to say. He's like, "Jeremy Lilley is good people," and that is
Well, thank you,
that is 1,000,000% true.
I love you, man. You're a great dude.
We could not be more grateful to have you on here and to share your insights in terms of gaming, your origin story, first of all, and then to share your insights and all you have going on in the RPG hobby. I wish you the utmost success, the absolute best in all that you're doing. We'll put links down in the description. We definitely want people to go check you out, both on YouTube and in terms of your products, and to support you whenever they can. And hey, folks, like, hit Jeremy up and have him run a game for you. I think I'm gonna out you, Jeremy. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna out you.
Uh-oh.
You own a copy because Joe and I, we're primarily in the Runehammer community. And
maybe a little bit.
You own a copy of ICRPG, but you've only played it one time.
I have.
And I think folks should hit you up and pay you to run it for them. So that's what I'm gonna leave folks with.
Ooh.
Hit Jeremy up for a paid game of ICRPG or whatever your favorite system is.
Folks out there, a lot of you have been asking, what's the difference between Master Edition and Core 2E? Well, playing games right? Or was it start playing? Erasmus.com/GM/ErasmusExpeditions.com. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Brains
follow the link.
But links in the description.
Follow the link.
Yeah. And don't listen to Joe. You'll end up in Albuquerque. All right. Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Jeremy, again, we cannot thank you enough. And
thank both of you. This was awesome.
Oh, you're awesome. Joe,
much love.
Take us out.
Right. Yep. It's I guess until next time, folks. You've all been great. But for now, take my hero coin and always roll ultimate effort.
Bye, everyone.